Just a reminder to our Speculating Wildly About Crime listeners, this is for entertainment purposes only and solely the thoughts and opinions of our team. We do invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Speculating Wildly About Crime. My name is Missy, and I am your host for today's episode. This is a case that got a lot of attention because of the Maura Murray case. But this might be a good thing because when Brianna Maitland disappeared, Maura Murray was getting attention. So there's a little bit of good that comes out of the fact that they're tied together, but also at the same time, Brianna was forgotten about for a long time too. Have any of you heard of this case before?
A little bit.
Yes.
Brianna Maitland was 17 years old, lived in Vermont with her parents, and at 17, she wanted to have a little bit more freedom. She didn't have a lot of friends at the high school that she went to. So at 17, she decided she wanted to move out on her own. Actually, she was going to go live with a few friends, and her parents were like, okay, we'll allow it. We'll let you do that. So Brianna decides that she's going to move 15 miles away to her friend's house, and then she was going to enroll in that high school. Shortly after she moved out of her parents' house, she ended up essentially couch surfing and living at various friends' houses, which in turn led to an unstable environment, and she ended up dropping out of high school, unfortunately. But within some time, she did move in with her friend Jillian Stout. After she moved in, she was able to go and apply to get her GED and try to finish high school. So on March 19th, 2004, Brianna had completed her GED. She was super excited, and her mom wanted to take her out and celebrate. So on that Friday, March 19th, 2004, they go out to have some lunch. They're going to go shopping. They're spending the day together. They're celebrating. And they're in line at the store, and they're waiting to pay for whatever they were purchasing. And Brianna is a little distracted. She sees something outside and maybe the parking lot. So she decides she's going to tell her mom, I'm going to be right back. And after she's done purchasing her items, she goes out to the parking lot where she finds Brianna. Now, Brianna's in kind of an agitated, anxious mood at this point, and her mom, Kelly, is not wanting to bother. She wants to let her have her feelings and do whatever. So she doesn't ask her what's wrong. So she just says,
Don't poke the bear.
Don't poke the bear, essentially. But Brianna, at this point, I have to go get ready for work. So the mom's like, okay, drops her off at her friend Jillian's house. And this is 3:30 in the afternoon. And this is actually the last time that her mom, Kelly, does see her, which is quite unfortunate. Brianna gets to her friend Jillian's house, and she writes a note for Jillian saying, hey, I'll be home after I'm done with work. So she's working at this place called the Black Lantern Inn, and she's actually a dishwasher there. She had just started this job. I wanted to point this out right now so that you guys are aware. Her shifts were inconsistent. She didn't have like a set schedule. Most people actually thought that this place was a restaurant. There is a restaurant, but this is actually more of like a bed and breakfast type place, which is still up and running, by the way. She finishes her shift and she actually clocks out at 11:20 p.m. that evening. Her coworkers say, hey, Brianna, do you want to have some dinner with us? And Brianna says, no, she was working another job at the same time. And that job, she had to work that next morning, or at least that's what she told her coworkers. She leaves, and her coworkers see her leave, and they see her leave alone. So we're to the next morning, actually. It's March 20th, 2004, and a Vermont state trooper was called to an abandoned house that is only a mile away from the Black Lantern Inn. And this house is on Route 118 in Richford, Vermont. And it's locally known as the Old Dutch Barn House. It's got the big pieces of plywood that are covering the windows. Everything's locked up, and it is out in the middle of nowhere. There's a big field on the side of it, real spooky looking at night. The officers called to the scene because there is literally a 95 green Oldsmobile backed into the side of this house. one of the plywood pieces had fallen on the trunk of the car, and there was a little bit of damage to the rear end of the car, not super amount, like you would think maybe if you rammed into something super hard at a high speed, maybe you're going to have a lot more damage than what the car actually had, for one. And then the rear wheels of the car were actually raised up. Let's bring up the car photos.
So this here, and maybe it was easy for it to back in because there's a door here, right?
A door or a window. You see the top of the car? That's where the board had fallen on the trunk, right? Yeah.
Right here.
Do we have any idea how far off the road this is?
It's actually like 50 to 100 feet, I believe. It's a little
But
bit
like
off.
you can see it from the road, right?
But far enough where it's not like you're driving and then suddenly, let's just imagine there's ice or something and you hit ice and you spin out and then you somehow you're not gonna go from the road into this house.
That's what I was wondering, of whether it was like an accident or something. Because when did this happen?
So this was actually in March. And this was, I should also tell you, I did look it up. It was about 20 degrees on that night. So it was cold. And you can see there's snow in the background. There is that too. I just don't see if you were in some sort of car accident where you're driving down the road and there's still no way in my head that you would end up that way.
It's an odd position to end up in.
It's a super odd position. I guess I wish that we had more of the visual of the road here.
I have one other car picture here.
It's super close to the road then.
It's still not been torn down.
The barn burned down in 2016.
Oh.
So
it burned down?
I don't know what caused it. Interesting.
I thought the same thing, Jamie. The barn conveniently burned down in 2016 as well. So the barn is no longer standing, but this barn is a mile away from the Black Lantern Inn. That's our scene right now that we're working with. So the officer gets here. He sees this, obviously. He's not super concerned. And I'm about to probably anger all of you. The officer sees the car doors are unlocked. He notices the keys are missing from the ignition. And then he sees that there are 2 uncashed checks on the passenger seat, both with Brianna Maitland's name on them. Okay. They're also from the Black Lantern Inn. Not really concerned, just curious. He decides he's going to drive to the Black Lantern Inn and see if they know anything about this car or who Brianna is or any of this. So he drives there. The place is closed.
I want to pause on that for a minute because you said it was a bed and breakfast. And I do remember, I think I listened to 2 podcasts and they both said it was closed. But doesn't somebody have to man the place while people are sleeping there, similar to the front desk of a hotel?
That's a really good point.
What if I need towels?
Or just wait till the shift shows up in the morning?
I wonder if there's like a number maybe they could call or something. If it is, I don't know how big this town is, but maybe if it's like a small town, there's somebody that
this is like
called to come in. But that is an interesting question.
That is a really good question.
I've never stayed at a bed and breakfast, so I don't know how it works.
Maybe there's like a night person, but like they're just an on-call person potentially.
So the officer decides he's just going to call the tow truck and he's just going to go do whatever else he had to do that day. Now, the thing is that this car was not registered under Brianna's name. This car was registered under Kelly's name, which is Brianna's mom. So at no point whatsoever did they call Brianna's mom, Kelly, and let her know that they found her car.
Just like Maura Murray.
That's right. They didn't tell Fred either. I totally forgot about that.
And when we do talk about Maura a little bit, I'm going to have you talk about if you don't know it yet.
A resident expert.
But you are our Maura Murray expert, so I was going to let you do it. Friday night was the last time that Brianna was seen, right? Saturday is when the officer found the car. And then Monday is when Jillian comes home. So Jillian, again, is the girl that she lives with, the roommate / friend. And when she got back Monday, she sees that the note is still there and it's actually untouched. She's not, again, 100% concerned. She used to go stay with other friends all the time, where she has her family. She's got a good relationship with them. She could be there. So she's not super duper concerned. But then when it comes to Tuesday, she says, okay, she's starting to get a little concerned. I'm not sure where Brianna is. I'm going to call Kelly.
Remind me, did she have a cell phone?
Heard on a podcast that she did not.
In all of the research I did, there was nothing about
Because they would have searched her cell phone and all of that. Okay, then that makes a lot more sense.
Even if Brianna did have a cell phone, I feel like this place and the over by the barn was really desolate and there really wasn't any reception anyway. So even if she did have a cell phone, it probably didn't have service. But I don't know for sure if she did actually have one.
Yeah, I don't think putting up a power line or cell phone tower next to a ghost-filled barn was a high requirement.
So Tuesday.
Jillian calls Kelly and says, "Hey, have you seen Brianna?" And Kelly says, "I thought Brianna was with you." Now, of course, Kelly is concerned because now she doesn't know where her daughter is. So she starts calling all of Brianna's friends that she can think of. And again, no one has seen her. No one has heard from her. Nobody knows where she is. At this point, Kelly is calling the police. This was March 23rd. She files a missing person report. So we're a couple days after she went missing and also after the car was found. Kelly and Bruce, Brianna's dad, bring photos of Brianna down to the police station. They give them a description of the car. An officer said, "Hey, wait a minute. We have a picture of a car that looks like that," and shows it to the Maitlands. And of course, Kelly said, "That is Brianna's car." And of course, Kelly right away has the mom feeling of, oh my gosh, something happened, something bad.
Also, like, why didn't you come to me?
I was just going to say that. If you had this picture and you thought it was weird enough to take a picture, why are we not saying anything about it? And why is this the first time anybody's hearing about it?
Oh, nice segue for me. Thank you. Actually, the police did not take the picture. A group of people took those pictures. Before we get into that little part, I did want to say one more thing. When they did take the car, they towed it off to a shop. And that's where it had sat for those few days. So when Bruce finds out that they took that car over there, Bruce, of course, rushes over there to see what's going on, to see what he can find out. Bruce goes into action right away. And I have to say, I love Bruce so much for this. I have nothing but so much admiration for him. But he went over there and he finds out that they didn't open the trunk because the keys are gone to this car. So he takes a crowbar to the trunk and pries it open and just hoping that he doesn't find his daughter. Luckily, he doesn't find her in the trunk of the car. But yeah,
I can't even imagine.
I have so many feelings for that. Yeah. So Brianna's not in the car, but there are things that are found in the car. And some of these things are clothes, her driver's license, her ATM card, makeup, contact lenses, essentially things that you, if you were going to run away or leave, you would not leave behind. That is what was found inside of the vehicle. And also, just to let you know, there were some things found on the outside of the vehicle as well. Those would be some loose change, a bottle of water, and a broken necklace. But again, not suspicious at all. Okay.
You don't think a broken necklace is suspicious, though? I got visibly angry when I heard that the cop just threw the broken necklace in the car.
Yeah, like it was on the ground outside.
And he was like, oh.
Just thought it was a drunk driver that crashed their car into this barn. And then.
Do we know that it's hers?
No, but I don't know. My true crime self says broken necklace, struggle. Let me bring that in for evidence.
That's a good question, though. Was it her necklace? Do we know that for sure?
We can't actually say it was hers. But
that's an interesting question to know, because it could have. Who else is going around there? But I feel like it's probably hers, but it could be possibly not.
It could have just been somebody else that hangs out in a creepy barn.
And again, small town, creepy abandoned place. If you're underage, this could be your hangout spot. And also, there was vomit found in the interior of the car. However, how long the vomit had been there, they don't know, because it took days to process the car, or they didn't process it right away. How long was it there? Not sure.
You're saying that all of this stuff they did note it before they had it towed.
So the stuff that was in the car was just left in the car when they towed it.
And he noted that he threw the necklace in the car, so maybe there was a half-assed police report on it.
That could be. And maybe that's why he thought it was a drunk driver. That's just me speculating too. A lot of information came from Crawl Space, the podcast with Tim and Lance, who did a really super deep dive into this. And they actually interviewed everybody under the sun associated with this case. I highly recommend that. But there was a syringe or a syringe cap as well. I feel like the syringe was in the car and the cap might have been outside of the car, somewhere in that vicinity. But just to note a few of those things as well. So let's talk about the reason we have the photos and some of the eyewitness accounts. This adds to our timeline a little bit. So we do know, again, we're going to go back a little bit and say, we do know that she clocked out at 11:20 p.m. that evening. We do know that the barn or this house, this abandoned house, was about a mile away from where she worked. And so somebody who was driving by that night between 11:30 and 12:30, so 11:30 p.m., 12:30 a.m., somebody was driving by, they saw the car in that location with the headlights on. Somebody else between the time of midnight, so 12 and 12:30, saw like the turn signal on the car. And then somewhere between the time of 2:30 and 4:30 a.m., her ex-boyfriend drove by the car, thought it was her car, but he had been partying all night and never stopped to check to see if it was her car or if she was okay.
I need to pause you there because I feel like we need to say this louder for the people in the back. We are in 2004, and this is a 1986 Oldsmobile.
85.
85.
Yeah.
You don't think that's her car. Nobody fucking has this car. This is a mint green. The car is as big as the world, and it is almost 20 years old. You don't think this is her car. This is her car. You think you didn't want to stop, or you were too drunk to stop, or that's what you think, right? Am I wrong? That's just crazy to me.
So with every eyewitness sighting, the car was in that position?
Yes.
And did it run out of gas and die?
That I don't know. That would make sense.
The keys weren't found, though. Is a good thing to bring up.
You can leave your lights off or your lights on and not have your keys in the ignition.
Probably in park then.
Yeah. And again, here's your timeline. It's from this. So the first person that drove by that said they saw the headlights anywhere from 11:30 to 12:30. That's real small amount of time from after she left work. That doesn't give a ton of time for somebody to just disappear.
It doesn't sound like she went home and then went back to Ghosty Barn.
Call it that the rest of this episode, please.
Oh, it's already happening. She didn't go somewhere else and then.
I don't think she had time to do that. Yeah, it doesn't.
Almost like somebody could have followed her from the inn.
That's a theory.
Or abducted her and forced her in the car.
Yeah. Like a small time frame. If someone was following her and did try to run her off the road, if they tapped her back end, you maybe wouldn't even notice if there's damage because the back end is what ended up at the barn.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, I don't know what the damage was to the car necessarily. Doesn't look like the front is damaged at all.
And it's not very much, just minimal damage.
I was just going to mention that those are the type of cars that they used to use for when they wanted to show on a police chase, where you hit the back panel of the car and it goes spinning out. So I'm wondering if because of the length of the car, that if someone hit her, maybe it did go all the way off the road that far.
Interesting.
And
I would know that someone hit her because the damage was already to the back of the car from being in the barn.
And it's not that far. Remember, we saw the road. It wasn't like there was a huge plot of land in between the road and the house.
That's interesting, Nat. That is a good option.
That's a better explanation than somebody purposefully got it in that odd position.
The other thing that I was thinking of is if someone was chasing her and she decided that she was going to ditch it and run, it would be very easy for her to like slam on the brakes after doing a wild turn and maybe slamming into the side of the barn and then taking off.
You guys are already way ahead on that. Speculating, which is good because honestly, that is a big thing with this case is how and why is the car there? Was it an accident? Did it accidentally end up in that position? Or did somebody put it in that position? Was it just dumped there? Another thing that I learned, it was a rear end drive. Now, I don't know a ton about cars. I really don't. I drive a car. That's what I got. I know how to put air in my tires and I know it needs gas. But with a rear wheel drive, apparently it's easier to get stuck. Okay, so people were saying, how would the car even get stuck in this position? And some of the comments were with a rear wheel drive, it's easier to get it stuck like that. And she would not be able to get it out. Okay, so there was a group, they were called the World Travelers. They were a group of skiers. And they were driving.
Very a creative name.
They were driving by that morning and they thought it was weird enough. They stopped, got out of their vehicle and took pictures. And those are the pictures that we have.
And again, we're not calling authorities.
I think they just thought it was super weird. Why is this car backed into this house?
Even if they thought it was, I don't know, a drunk driver that walked away from the car. I don't know. Wouldn't you call somebody? Anybody? Maybe they didn't have cell phones either and they're waiting to get.
Yeah, I guess 2004,
yeah,
right?
But I don't think there's a record that they ever called because didn't it come out after that they gave the pictures that they had?
Their brains were working in some capacity for sure. They got out, they were like, this is super weird. Let's take a picture. Like they got some angles or whatever. So there's that. Yeah. They were halfway there.
Also, those are like some pretty solid photos for 2004.
Yeah, agreed.
Only the best cameras for the world travelers.
Oh, maybe that's it. They were the world travelers. They had
Those
to
are
have
some solid photos.
I love it.
I feel like my phone now doesn't take as good photos.
Yeah.
Oh, we know mine doesn't. They have the search party, they have helicopters, they have dogs thing, and there's no trace. Have nothing. That's it. There's no trace of Brianna. First, they thought maybe she ran away.
But you wouldn't run away without your license and your ATM card.
And your uncashed paychecks.
Yeah. And your only mode of transportation, you're just going to ditch it right here in the side of a barn. And
unless it was stuck, unless she did get hit and like she couldn't get it out. But it doesn't explain the rest of the shit, why you leave all your money, your contact solution, all that.
And a migraine medicine that she was taking some migraine medicine too. Just stuff like that. Important things that you just wouldn't leave those behind.
Let me just speculate here a little bit because we're on the thought of did she run away? If you wanted to disappear on purpose, would you make it seem like you didn't run away by leaving some of that stuff behind? And we can go to Walgreens and we can buy new contact solution. We can get another prescription for our migraine medicine.
The only thing is, it sounds like, yeah, she's probably not doing what I want to be when I grow up, but she made sure she wanted to get her GED. It sounds like she had a good circle of friends, a good relationship with her parents.
She was even talking about going to college with her mom that day that she was out. Her future was looking bright and she had some plans. If you're going to run away, why would you leave your two uncashed paychecks? At least cash your paychecks. Have to run away with if you're running away. That's but
very true. But tips if anybody wants to make themselves disappear, just leave shit behind.
Just leave all your shit, buy new shit.
With no money.
It's a quick thing. Like they think maybe she ran away, but they quickly change their mind and they start to suspect some foul play. Okay, this doesn't add up. This whole thing is not making sense. Something's wrong. Obviously, we're going to say something happened here. There are a few other things. We're going to circle back to those. I want to move ahead a little bit and go to 2006. So this is 2 years after Brianna's disappearance. We're going to jump in timeline a little bit to Atlantic City, and we're going to go to Caesar's Palace, which is a casino in Atlantic City. And there is a woman who is at the casino, and she sees a young woman sitting at a blackjack table with a male, an older gentleman. She has seen these missing posters that have been everywhere about Brianna and her disappearance, and she is thinking, this girl looks a lot like Brianna. She decides to contact authorities, and authorities bring up the surveillance video, which of course, grainy and at an odd angle, but they're able to show this to the Maitlands, which if you want, Jamie, you could actually get that picture up for us as well.
So here is the
Really
side by side. So
Yeah.
small, but I'm going to pull up these pictures. I did find them a little bit bigger too. So
Awesome.
this is Brianna, and I think it's important to look at the way her nose is because that's really what we can see here. And so obviously this is a casino girl. This is Brianna. This is the close-up of the casino picture. And then this is the close-up of the other picture. That picture, again, look at her nose, her eyebrows, and then casino picture. And I guess forehead space too. If we look at that.
Yeah, that's true.
They look
That's
very
really wish that
similar.
surveillance was better.
I
Yeah,
know.
again, it's
Never.
2000. They needed, what was the very creative travelers?
Yeah, whatever their camera was.
Yeah, they needed to get on board with Atlantic City.
world
I
to
assume
see.
like casinos should or do have like high tech equipment because they want to make sure nothing.
You're not counting cards and stuff.
Yeah.
So why do we have the grainiest video ever? I feel like gas station surveillance is better than this.
Yeah, 2006, but still.
But the pictures in 2004 look better than this.
Right,
And we're
that's true. Taking the pictures of the car.
The world travelers.
Jamie is saying the forehead and like that you can see.
Yeah. I don't know.
I wish her hand wasn't there.
Oh, to see her chin. Yeah,
see
because
her
her chin
chin.
is
Do you
very pronounced here.
See how yes, at least from that angle.
And I looked, like, there is no other picture of her in this casino. These are all just, I don't know what they are. This is really the only one that comes up.
Yep. And that's the only one I saw too. So, what do you guys think of this?
What did the gentleman who sat beside her think?
Oh, yeah. Did they
Yeah,
interview him?
I will say that police tried to reach out and see, of course, if anyone was like going to be like, I was the girl in the casino that day. No one ever came forward. So whoever that guy was, whether he was with her or not, and no idea.
So even that girl never came forward and did a
Nope.
full.
And no parking lot surveillance from the casino.
No, that was it. But there are two things. One was obviously I showed the Maitlands. Kelly, after some time, because Kelly doesn't know whether or not she believes it's her daughter. And she sits there for a little bit and she's trying to watch it over and over again. And finally, she decides that this is not Brianna. There is one more thing that I hadn't thought of until earlier today. Time has passed. We're at 2 years past. And there is something we're going to bring up a little bit later with some drugs. And drugs do some things to people, such as change appearances. So that's also something that you could keep in the back of your mind. Even if she doesn't look 100% like Brianna did when Brianna went missing, if you are somebody who is into drugs, you might not look the same in 2 years.
And was it methamphetamines that were really big here, or was it heroin or
crack? Actually, there was a big crack epidemic, like a big drug ring that was going on in that area around at the same time, as well as a sex trafficking ring.
Just to bring a little bit of light to this, because I feel like we're a little heavy, but were these people behind the times? Wasn't this way past Bobby Brown and Whitney doing crack? Like, we're 25 years later. Like, they need to get on board with whatever's popular in 2004.
again, small town. Their major drug dealers that they had in this area were coming in from New York and bringing drugs to this little spot because they knew they could, and they knew they could make some money doing that. Any other thoughts on Atlantic City in our surveillance photo?
No, I feel like it was somebody reaching, and maybe somebody wanted their 15 minutes of fame, and maybe her mom really wanted to hold on to. Could it be her? That means she's still alive.
Yeah.
Or to contradict myself and go the total other way, this girl didn't talk, right? So they tried to interview her. She didn't want to come forward with a story. Maybe they're both part of a drug or a sex trafficking ring or a human trafficking ring. And she quickly realized, shit, I shouldn't have said anything. Let me just keep quiet and this will all go under the rug. Just speculating on both sides of the fence.
Let's go to the next one. So we are going to go back to actually a little bit after Brianna's disappearance. So back in 2004. So we're going back on the timeline again. Okay. So back right around her disappearance, like right after her disappearance sometime, police received a tip that Brianna was being kept in the basement of a house that was only about 10 or 11 miles from actually the place that she worked at. Somebody was keeping her in the basement. That's what they heard. They go to raid this house, and it is being rented by two drug dealers. One of them is Ramon Ryans, and the other one is Nathaniel Jackson. And these are the two drug dealers that are from New York that have been coming in to this area to push their drugs and sell their drugs to the people that are living in this small town. Now, obviously, they don't find Brianna in the house, but they do find drugs and guns. And they also discover that Brianna did know these men. She had at least brought Nathaniel to her house, the house that she lived at with her roommate. She had also been seen partying with these two guys about 2 weeks prior to her disappearance. And that's going to lead us to the next thing, which we already briefly touched on, is that Brianna did dabble in some drugs such as weed, cocaine, and some crack. Now, of course, her parents, and we're going to say police too, because police don't believe that she was like a heavy user, that she was more of a recreational user, trying things out, doing some dabbling here and there. And the reason why police believe this is because she was working 2 jobs. She was doing a lot more than your stereotypical drug user would be doing.
Could she have 2 jobs to support the habit?
And I was thinking too, if it was, let's say it was a new habit, like where we could be getting into a habit.
So she's not showing signs of being a heavy user, and people around her that maybe police have interviewed wouldn't say that. But then also, if we go back to that, okay, she's a new user. Where is the motive to kill her? She's not in enough drug debt yet, right? Because she's maybe tried it 4 or 5 times at this point. And maybe she saw something she shouldn't have. I don't know. I don't know where the drug motive comes in if she wasn't a heavy user. And I feel like if you are using anything outside of marijuana, you're going to have signs of, I use it a lot and I use it all the time. Like you said, your body's going to be altered. Are these 2 men still alive? And if are they out of prison? Ever went to prison?
Ramon for sure got in trouble for the drugs they found in this house. And then he was released, but I don't know right now where they're at. He did go back to New York, I believe, but I don't know where he is now. And again, like this was
Carolina, go start knocking on doors. Go find
I apparently have to, I think.
This was like 19 years ago too. So that's the other thing. This was a long time ago. Yeah. We have to go back and say it took at least 4 days before she was even reported missing.
Yep. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Yeah. Kids could have went out and partied around and in that car.
Yep.
For all we know.
The water could have.
The car was unlocked.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would go sit in some random car that's backed into the.
If you're cold and homeless.
I feel like the temperature would make sense that maybe somebody would be like, oh, let's check the door and we'll sit in here to do whatever we're doing.
So the car sat like that for 4 days and nobody thought to call it into
No,
authorities
they
or
sat there for one day. The car did get towed that next day,
Okay.
but the car sat wherever they towed it to until she was,
seen.
at least until they found out that it was her that was missing. And yeah.
Then Bruce came in and said, let me show you how to do your job. Pop the trunk.
Guys, there's something I haven't told you yet. So right now we're going to talk about a couple of people of interest or persons of interest or people that do have we're going to start with Keely Lacrosse. She was a friend of Brianna's. They were at a party together, and the rumor is that Brianna was allegedly flirting with her boyfriend or a guy that she had interest in. You have to understand, Brianna was a very pretty girl. She also liked male attention, and something happened at this party where Keely got really pissed off at Brianna. Brianna said, I'm not dealing with this. She goes out to her boyfriend's truck. She's sitting in the passenger seat, and Keely goes out, knocks on the passenger window. She rolls it down, and she gets punched in the face repeatedly. Keely breaks her nose and gives her a concussion. There's another thing that you need to know about Brianna. Brianna could have fought back. Brianna had a good amount of knowledge in martial arts. She was very able to defend herself, but she did not. And actually, I'm actually gonna say it was on the Disappeared episode about Brianna that her mom said that Brianna didn't fight back because she wanted people to like her. She just had a really kind heart, and she didn't want to deal with that, and she wasn't gonna defend herself.
I was just going to say how kind her heart was. Like she literally brought a hitchhiker home, picked him up on the side of the road and brought him home. And her mom walked into her house and was like, who is this guy? Oh, I don't know. Picked him up off the side of the road. Here he is.
She's
I
a
don't
lot
know
nicer than me.
That's heartedness or naivete.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Probably a little bit of both, but I feel like it's more on the side of kind-heartedness where, hey, you're in a tough spot. Let me help you out, right?
Brianna's super, super nice, but she is convinced by other people that she needs to file charges. And so she does. This Keely girl is supposed to go to court for this until, of course, Brianna goes missing. 3 weeks after Brianna goes, the charges are dropped, and Keely is off scot-free for this assault charge. The police clear her from any involvement in Brianna's disappearance. And later on in life, Keely does end up breaking into a house and attacks the homeowner and bites her in the leg. Yeah. We know she had some violent tendencies. There is a lot of information that they have not released to the public. And my thought on that is I think that the cops in this case know a lot more than what they are telling us. I think they're keeping a lot of things real close, and they might know, but they just can't prove. And so
gives me physical anxiety because there's so many and especially how many cases on disappeared where that probably is a case. And I appreciate the justice system because I know it's there to do what it's intended to do, but also it halts cop or law enforcement in cases like this where they're like, we have everything except for A, B, and C to have a solid case. We know everything about how this person did it, but we can't fucking do anything with it.
I have a pretty good feeling they know, or they have a pretty good speculation of who did it, but they just can't prove it.
Yeah, they can't connect all the dots.
They can't connect the dots.
Prosecutor actually bring a case.
That's what I think. Could be completely wrong, but
no, and I think you're 100% right on that. But can we do The Wire? Can we go in and mic somebody up that we think is close to these people and hope that they slip up someday? Or is it just not that, and this is going to sound awful, but it's not that important because it's one person in one case. And I don't mean for that to sound insensitive at all, because it sucks. If it was my friend, my daughter, whatever, I would want every resource on it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think
There's
I
got to
think
be a better way to get the cops from we know everything to getting a case solved.
I also think there are more people that know things.
Yeah.
In this case as well. I think there are people that know and they just can't
mean,
come forward versus
like, I could name 10 cases right now just without even thinking about it where we pretty much all know. But yeah, who are other suspects?
so at the time that Brianna went missing, the Maitlands were getting a lot of tips and people were calling a lot. And one of the, or I should say, what some of the people that called the Maitlands were the Murray family. We are at Maura Murray. Janelle, if you would like to step in here, I will allow you to come on in and tell us a little bit about who Maura Murray was. And
Yeah, I'll do a little bite size. So right off the bat, some huge differences. Mara was a college student at UMass. She left on her own free will. There was no doubt about it. She took a random trip and did not tell any of her family, friends. Everybody was super shocked that this even happened. Anyway, her car was found abandoned in Haverhill, New Hampshire. There are 9,027 theories on what could have happened to her, but her case received so much attention because her family they're still doing multiple times a year searches in that area.
How far apart did they go missing? Was it within 2-3 months?
5 weeks and 100 miles. Maura disappeared first, and then Brianna disappeared second. The national media, or all of the attention was on Maura Murray at this time versus the Brianna case, but they do get tied in a lot because they were super duper close and super weird. They both went missing and the cars were still there. So that's just weird circumstances under both of them.
We know with Mara, her car, I don't think it was drivable, but with Brianna, I don't know if that was drivable either.
I think Brianna's was more, if I'm understanding it, like stuck. I think it was just stuck in there.
Lodged in the.
Yeah, lodged in there. If it was for sure, I don't know. But that's the way it sounds. Is that
very, very similar. But we also know that Mara also not only willingly left to go on this secret trip, but she willingly left her car.
Yeah.
Just because of the items that she packed up.
Yes.
And what was missing from, like with Brianna, it's what was found in the car. With Mara, it's what was missing from the car. That's how we know she made the choice to take off and leave the site.
Very nice observation, actually. That's pretty good.
That's good because I thought we maybe stumbled upon a new serial killer, but we did not.
So actually, that's what the Maura Murray's family seemed to be calling the Maitlands about was, do you think that there's a serial killer? We have this thing in common where both of our daughters went missing. It's really close in proximity. And this is where, if you hear the other theory about the Israel Keys, for those of you that don't know, well, Israel Keys was just a person that traveled all over the place and killed people, had no real,
he had no type. There was no
Thank you.
Ted Bundy to it. There was no Jeffrey Dahmer to it. It was very erratic.
Yes. And he was known to be up in that area before. That's not unusual for him to be there. And a lot of the time when there's an unanswered case, hey, it's Israel Keys. He did it.
For Mara, I know it was proven, whether it was by his financial records or travel records, he would not have been there. But one of the things that I don't really did it for him was vehicular intimidation. So he would like mess with people on the road. Like he would get in front of them and drive really slowly until somebody would pass him, and then he would speed up and basically tailgate them. So when you said that about the car could have gotten hit at an angle and made it swerve off. That was the first
Yeah.
thing that came to my head was Keys. And he has confessed to killing other people in Vermont. I think he owned property in Vermont.
Yes. Yeah.
So he was in that area a lot.
Interesting. So Janelle, is that how you think you solved it before when you said it?
I think so. They
That's like it's possible.
after or the FBI came out and said basically Keys is not a suspect anymore, but it was after he committed suicide. It's not really a lie to say you're no longer a suspect because
He died by suicide. Oh,
but that means that up until his death, they were trying to tie these two together.
The fact that they know who killed her, but because he's dead, there's no way to convict him.
But don't you think that they would? Why wouldn't they say then that he
I
did
think
it?
they would probably go to her family and say, we know who did it, but unfortunately that person has passed away. And we don't want to cause more uproar about it. And
So the thing about Keys is he was so freaking good that the only way like they could get it out of him was to if he confessed. I don't think it's going to be like we found this clue, we found this DNA, it's a done deal. That's why there are hours of him being interviewed is because that's the only way they got 90% of what they got from him
yeah.
was because he confessed.
Interesting.
And if he was in that area,
And here I was just gonna brush over him.
Oh no, I feel like
Couldn't be. Now I'm thinking though. Now I'm speculating wildly in my head.
Israel Keys are aliens.
Now I want to go look up all of it. Wow. Okay.
that's interesting because I'm of the notion that she either had an accident, slid out, ended up in that place, or someone kind of rear-ended her. But with Nat's talk about the car, how they would spin out, I feel like someone probably hit the back of her. Talking about Israel Keys with the car business. I don't know.
Okay, so now I want to know where Israel Keys was March 19th, 2004.
The
Yeah.
problem is because he didn't travel somewhere directly, it was always through an indirect route. He would take a flight one place, drive a rented car to a part of the country that he had a car hidden in a garage.
Yeah.
It was the same thing with money and bags and weapons.
yeah.
I'm sure he picked up a lot of black market weapons during gun shows and things like that he's
Yeah.
Maybe he had a kill kit in Ghosty Barn already.
Okay, I gotta bring up can I bring up one of my pins now that Janelle said that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did they ever search that barn? Did the police ever search that barn before it was burned down? And was
I
anything
feel
found?
like yes. No. So yes and no. I believe that they did, and I believe there wasn't anything found.
Okay.
How well they did, I don't know. But
Did they Stephen Avery search it or?
What do you know about like how the police handle? What grade do you give the police?
not a very good one.
Same with Mara because they thought she left.
Yeah.
Run like what do you call it when a grown person is a runaway?
like a runner.
I just would imagine they probably don't put as much emphasis on that because
They're an adult and they can do whatever they want. They want to disappear, they can.
But that makes no sense to me when we have a car that's backed into a barn and Maura's car who is off the road. Like
Yeah.
you would expect that. I know I drive on the highway and cars that are just on the side of the road with no one in it. You assume that they ran out of gas. They walked to a gas station. I don't know, but these are like look like accidents happened of somewhat.
I do have one dent to put in your theory.
The
Saw that-
Keys theory?
The Keys theory.
I was going to call it a night.
She was done. She was like, I solved this case. I'm so proud of you. So the one thing is that there was DNA found, and Israel Keys was very meticulous and did not leave DNA.
Could this have been an early case for him? Or when did he start?
But they would have tested if it was a match.
Let's, again, we'll put a pin in the DNA thing.
Okay.
Because we still need to talk about some other people that might be involved in it. We did have to talk about more because she's tied into this just because of the close proximity. But I'm just going to go out there right now and just say I don't think that the two cases have anything to do with each other.
I think it was just a coincidence.
I think so too. Let's talk about there is the option of a stranger. We're going to go back to the fact that Brianna's a really nice person, super big heart, picks up hitchhikers. There is the chance that there might have been somebody on the road that night, or even at the Black Lantern Inn in the parking lot. Maybe somebody who was there or drank at the bar that night or anything like that. Could have just been somebody in that area that needed a ride. And she said, sure, I'll give you a ride. And then shit happened. Maybe they got into a struggle on the way to the bar. This was actually the road that she was driving on is the road that she would take to get to her house. So she was going in the direction of her house, by the way. Something could have happened with this person in the car or whatever, but that's all I have on that theory. But do you guys have any thoughts on that?
A stranger could have also not killed her, but brought her into a human trafficking ring too. I don't think it's a far-fetched theory.
My thought too is if she worked there, I think people that work in the service industry have somebody who is either obsessed with you or even like borderline stalking you.
Brian Kohlberger went into that restaurant that those girls were working at all the time.
100%. And who's to say it wasn't not somebody she didn't know? So maybe not necessarily a stranger, but what if it was somebody?
And, oh yeah, I'll give you a ride home.
With too. I'll give you a ride home, and then
okay, and we didn't talk about this at all. There is, and not that you can do a big sign of struggle when your car is out in the middle of nowhere and it's freezing, but like the car doesn't show any sign of a struggle. I know other than it's a big thing, but other than it's backed into that thing. But wouldn't you think the seat would be out of order, or you might see some, and we saw some, or we didn't, but I looked at some pictures of the inside of her car, and yeah, it looked like somebody was maybe living in there a little bit, but it didn't look like a sign of a struggle. So that would lead me to believe maybe she was being nice. Maybe it was somebody that she knew.
I'm assuming they talked to all of her coworkers that were on shift that night.
Yeah, if there was some weird creepo dude like hanging around, like somebody would say something. And they did say that when she left, that she had left alone. But were they really watching out the window to make sure she got to her car okay?
They're all in her car, yeah.
Yeah, probably not. But that's just my thought.
And there was no like gas station or anything along the way of her. And that's what I remember from listening to some podcasts, because it was very close.
Yeah.
It was within a mile or two of where she worked.
It was a mile.
Okay.
So that's just another theory you got to throw out there. Could be just some random person, or because of the fact that she had picked up that hitchhiker, there's that thought that maybe she had picked up another one and this is what happens. I don't know if I really believe that, but yeah, just got to throw it out there. Then I have one that I'm pretty sure we're all going to agree with, but I'm just going to, of course, have to put it out there because it's a theory. The theory that she ran away and went to start a whole new life somewhere else. I said immediately no, but are you guys all on that same page?
I believed it up until the paychecks.
Okay.
The license and the ATM call. I don't.
But if you're going to start a new life, you would leave that, because what if she had to go into witness protection for some reason?
Yeah, I feel like I'm with you on that, Jamie, that the license, maybe she'd leave because she's going to have a new identity. But the paycheck, she could probably just do for cash somewhere.
I would immediately cash that and just at least have the cash in my hand, and I could cash it right before I would disappear.
That's what I would. Yeah.
I don't know.
Unless she was like worried about being tracked at a bank, but if she did it like locally around her, that would make sense.
You would do it before you plan to disappear. Are you ready for the last thing I haven't told you yet? If you remember that she went to the store with her mom, they were celebrating, she got the GED, They were happy. And then she's in the store, she's waiting in line, and she sees something outside of the store, and she leaves. And then her mom, she was agitated, anxious, all this stuff, right? This again is from the Crawl Space podcast, but there was someone who came forward later on and said that the day that Brianna went missing, this person had spoken to Brianna in the parking lot and warned her not to go to work that day. They also know who the person is, but it's like again, we're keeping it under wraps type thing. We're not telling you who it is, but yeah, she was warned to not go to work that day.
What was the threat?
That's all I got. That's what they said, is that she was told not to go. And that's why
Then why would she be so agitated about going to work and getting ready for work?
I feel, she's 17. She probably doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know if this threat's real or not. She might have, she just started this job. I don't know how long before, but she had recently started the job there. It might be like she doesn't know what to do. Do I go? Do I not go? I don't want to call in. I don't want to not go because I just got this job. I need this job. It's just a threat. No one's going to do anything.
They don't know who it was.
Or they're not releasing who it was.
They're not releasing. So they maybe know, but if it was like another teenager, like a classmate saying, oh, don't go to work or else today, she might be looking at it as this is like something I have to deal with, of being I feel like the drama of being a teenager. And if it was somebody like that giving the threat, she'd be like, I'm just gonna go to work. I'm not gonna succumb to this threat.
That could be. And again, it could be, if we're thinking teenagers, if we're thinking like, I'm not saying Keely, but I'm saying something like, oh, it's just this person being super dramatic and whatever.
Yeah, I feel like I like definitely had that all happen to me when I was growing up as a teenager.
So
why couldn't it be Keely though?
Oh, I'm just saying.
Just to speculate. I'm not. She's already beat her up. She already doesn't like her. I forget how much time had passed from when she got beat up to now don't go to work today.
3 weeks. And if it was a boy thing, I hate to say it, but you're high school, you're jealous. Like,
makes you do crazy shit.
Yeah, she already beat her up. She gave her a concussion.
And now maybe like the boy like went into the bed and breakfast, or she saw him at a gas station or something, and she was like, I'm gonna get this bitch. And one of Brianna's friends, I don't know why I couldn't think of her name, so sorry, warned her and said, hey, I heard from Keely, don't go in today.
Yeah, but she's also facing assault charges already
that get dropped as soon as she goes missing, or right after she goes missing.
So you think?
Yeah, okay, because she's afraid, shit, I might go to jail. All this is going to unravel. How do I get rid of this problem? And she's also, I'm assuming, around 16, 17, 18.
That's what I'm assuming.
The brain isn't fully developed. So this is how I get rid of this problem. Yeah.
We're back to either Keely or, again, we've got our 2 drug dealers, Roman and Nathaniel. I have to bring them back because there's another thing about them. There was a woman who actually wrote a sworn affidavit about these 2 men and said that Brianna had lent money to Roman. Okay, so when we'd asked before, it wasn't about Brianna's drug debt. It was she had lent money to Roman, and then she was now asking for this money back or something like that. It got, of course, into an argument. She wanted her money, and Roman and Nathaniel killed her. And they actually, apparently this affidavit was very detailed and very graphic, and said that she had been dismembered with a table saw and then disposed of on a pig farm. But there was no proof that this actually happened. Okay, so they did find DNA. Vermont police did not actually come out and say that they found DNA in this case until 2016.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And then, are you ready for this part? March 2022, they sent this DNA to a specialized lab in Texas.
Oh,
And
God.
yeah. And the DNA they compared with 11 people that were persons of interest that they were trying to compare this DNA to, and they got a match. Who the match was, we don't know. They have not released any information. We don't know what the DNA was. We don't know where they found it, and we don't know who this person is.
Why
We
is
know
the DNA not enough to solve the case?
it could just be random DNA, but they're
Okay,
not.
so let's say it's her dad's DNA or her boyfriend's DNA or somebody who doesn't necessarily matter. They're tied to the case. Why can't we release that?
I don't know. We're
I feel
keeping
like they must think that they can connect this person some other way, and they're waiting.
I think you're right. I think that everything is super under wraps because they feel like if they don't keep it under wraps, they won't be able to get
Yeah.
whatever
Or at
they
least
need.
that's my hope. That's what the reason is. Because even if there's DNA there, they would have to tie that person, especially if it is someone close to her,
Mm.
that their DNA would be found in the car anyway. They'd have to tie them to that night, to her disappearance.
Right.
To
Okay. Okay. And
That's
to be clear, they said the DNA belongs to somebody that they are aware of their name. Okay.
There were they ran this DNA against 11 different people, and it did match one of them.
Okay.
So
Right.
do we know what happened to cause these more recent releases?
It's just
No.
DNA technology, maybe?
That could be.
I could see that for 2016, but what happened last year to make them?
Were they
I wonder-
that backed up? Because there's a bunch of podcasts that talk about donate to this fund that will help get this DNA process faster because there's not enough people processing it. I'm just trying to get benefit of the doubt. I don't know.
But that's 6 years.
And I wonder also, it's 2016 and 2020, but were they working during the pandemic?
But I also wonder, yeah, maybe it's a whole 11 people total, but they didn't give all 11 at once. They could have done 5 and then said it's a relative or some, I don't
Wait.
know.
Yeah.
So 2016, they released that DNA was going to be tested. Is that what you said?
So 2016, they at least announced that they had the DNA.
That
They
they had,
announced they found DNA. Yes,
which they
Whether
knew for.
I would think so, but
And
But
then
now we can finally test it.
they sent it to this lab in Texas.
yeah,
How do we know it's not Israel Key's DNA?
we don't.
Still alive.
Damn it, Israel.
They have his DNA. But if you would think they had his DNA, because they do, and it was his, wouldn't they say that? Now
would
he
think
has
so.
now died by, he's not alive anymore.
If it was Israel Keys, why they wouldn't just say that it was Israel Keys?
Because at this point, maybe the family still can sue for defamation, but at this point, what do you have to lose if you name? Not saying that we should go pin every murder on him, but if you have his DNA and it's in this car, why wouldn't? Yeah.
Because why else would it be there? I guess.
I'll
unless
say-
unless you can tie Brianna to him some other way. That they
Yeah.
knew each other or they had a relationship or
He did not have
which
friends.
obviously that's not come up.
How do we know he didn't drink at the Black Lantern Inn or
Right?
stay there?
Because Janelle said that he that there was murders in that area.
The
Vermont.
Couriers is the couple he killed in Vermont.
What time frame did that happen in? So with Israel Keys, you can't foreclose the
It's
fact
only an hour
that
away.
he maybe planned murders in a place and then also took some as opportunity while he was there.
I don't know if I can get on board with it being Keys.
And maybe it is just a super coincidence that the FBI was able to clear him like right around the time he killed himself. But just the fact that they did not say anything until after the fact is just so odd to me.
That is weird. How it's, oh, now he's dead, and also he didn't kill Brianna Maitland.
And is no longer a suspect.
What was technically the first case that they think he was not?
Samantha Koenig. That's what got him caught. I think there are 11 confirmed. It's hard because a lot of people he didn't name. He just told about the crime. And so then it was like a game. Like he left cops to
Yeah, they get off on that.
put two and two together and have to do the work. There's very few victims that he actually named. And a lot have since been either confirmed or we're 99.9% sure this is who, just based on things he said and tying it to what we found at the scene and what we know about this person. But like, he took most everything with him.
Like a selfish bastard that he is.
Yep, I hate that. I hate that.
But that's why it is so easy for it to be just like a, we'll slap that on there, solved.
Solved. It's either Israel keys or aliens, Nat.
Yeah. I don't hate where you're going to now with the car thing, right? So that was his motive, and her car was slammed into this thing. He was, I think, in the area at the time. Did they say that?
He would fly in somewhere, get a rental car, and return it with like thousands of miles on the car.
But didn't he owned property over there too, you said, right? It's highly possible that if he lived in that area, why not kill some more people on your hunting ground? Or though, isn't that not very smart if you're a serial killer to kill people around where you are?
He didn't live there.
Oh, he just owned property. I do think we should talk about some theories. Janelle, we're going to start with you.
I'm just here for entertainment purposes at this point. But I do want to ask, with Lance and Timmy, did they mention keys?
Yes, but they didn't think that he did it because of the DNA part of it, because there was some DNA left, and Keys was just so meticulous and smart about, I hate to say that, smart about killing people that he wouldn't have, he was just too good at it. How about you, Nat?
Really feel that there's definitely a possibility for Keys to have done it, because just because you found DNA in a car doesn't mean that it's DNA from when the murder happened. Could be DNA from her and her boyfriend. It could be DNA from her and Keely hanging out when they were best friends. We don't know what type of DNA it is. So it also could be female. We don't have to assume it's just a male. But I do also question about those men on drugs, knowing that she was owed money. If he felt pressure and he was doing drugs, that would be a possibility of where they found the DNA. Maybe that was the needle, one of his needles that fell out of the car. That could be a possibility too. It's so difficult. I wish we had more information. I wish the cops did a better job.
Yeah, agreed.
My theory is, and maybe we'll get on Israel Keys, maybe, for that theory, but I think that she either had an accident, a car accident, given it's March, there's snow, if the roads were icy, she either spun the car out and met with somebody that like found her car and found her like in an accident and came upon her, or somebody was following her and like rear ended the back of her, which I feel like I'm on that theory because of Nat's thoughts about the car and how those cars spin out, that somebody actually forced her off the road and then came upon her after they forced her off the road. Could it be Israel Keys? Maybe. He liked to mess with people in cars, or could it be somebody else? That's my theory.
Jamie?
I'll build on that a little bit. I'm going to build a semi-elaborate story, but go with me. I do think she was followed from where she left work, because I know 11:30 to 12:30 is a big time frame, but also it could have happened right away and it was only a few miles from her house. I personally think a off-duty police officer knew that she worked there, was pursuing her because she was beautiful. I think when you have a person of authority, you listen, right? And if this is somebody you trust because it's a police officer, I'm going to do what they say. And so maybe he did something to her car to make it spin out. He gets out and says, "Oh my gosh, let me help you." She gets into his car and says, "Okay." He then gets into his car and says, "Oh fuck, how do I make this look like it's not what it is? How do I get myself rid from this case? Let me drop a syringe. Let me take some pictures of the scene. Let me do A, B, C, E, F, G, make it look like it's somebody else. Then go dispose of her body wherever you will." And he is a police officer, so he's going to make sure that area is never searched.
You've been holding on us, Jamie.
And I can't believe that you just brought that right here.
Time.
Because
Wait,
here
now for so when you said they just dropped a syringe, where did they get the syringe? Was it other evidence? I want
he can get a syringe from anywhere.
I feel like I want them to check their whole log of every police officer on duty that night, all of their inventory of
And see if there was any
drugs that they have recovered, booked into evidence or whatever.
Because that could be something. But my two big pins were, okay, and I said I was going to come back to some things. Actually, I have three big pins. So my number one is what we talked about in the beginning. This motherfucker said, "I saw her pay stubs and I went back to the bed and breakfast and it was closed and nobody was there to answer my questions." I go back to, and please somebody come for me if they've stayed at bed and breakfast. If you are staying somewhere and you are a guest somewhere, somebody is there as a worker, right? So that gave me alarm bells. Number two, and this could just be inexperienced police work, and I was going to go back and say that earlier in this episode too, so I can contradict myself, but you come upon this vehicle and you immediately say, "Drunk driver, let me call a tow truck, done deal. I'm not going to process any information. I'm not going to do anything. I just want to get rid of this car off the side of the road." And then number three, he never called the owners of the vehicle because we don't want to alarm them. So we're not going to do that. And then the fourth thing was, which I think I asked you, and maybe it's not a thing anymore because you said they did go in and search the house. I would say, why wouldn't you search the house? That's where she was found. So I do love me some law enforcement, and I think there's a lot of really great people out there, but I think there's an equal amount of people who use law enforcement as a tool to do not so great things. And so this, I feel, is one of two things. It is a case of somebody used their power to their advantage in an awful way, or we have an inexperienced law enforcement that did not do their job fully.
I think if this was a whole police corruption mastermind situation, they would not still be bringing it up or sending evidence off, or
that guy still works there and he's still trying to keep his name under the radar.
Easily said nothing in 2016, nothing in 2022. Nobody's talking about it anymore. We'll just let it.
But what if he's working way over here as a beat cop and there's the people over here that are working on cold cases and he has no say? What do you got?
I have a thought. Do you remember, when was it when we thought that they might have found Maura Murray's bones?
Oh, it might have been 2022.
It was right before.
The question that you asked about why all of a sudden they're sending this stuff in. If Brianna's case is so tied to Maura Murray, because every time we talk about Maura Murray, we bring up Brianna, or vice versa, right? Maybe it sat cold for a while, but then all of a sudden there was some movement in the Maura Murray case, which brought more attention to Brianna's case again, which then set that again to bring more attention back to Brianna.
What's
So
your
that's-
theory, Missy?
I had a theory. Now you guys just both of you just blew my mind a little bit. I was definitely not for the Israel Keys thing. Then Janelle said some things, and now I'm like, oh, crap. Now I wish we could find out where he was around that time, or if we could dig some more and figure out anything really. Jamie was saying there are some valid points with why didn't you call Kelly right away? Why would you say the place was closed if it is a bed and breakfast type place? I was more in the boat of we have two people that did know her that might have had more of a motive. Keely for sure had a motive. Do I think she did it? I don't. I was leaning a little bit more toward our drug dealers that obviously if they or Ramon, I should say, owed her money and then she's putting some pressure on him. And I feel like there's two of them. They have motive. A big part of me feels like maybe the syringe was somebody who tried to get her fucked up on purpose. Excuse the term, but like somebody was either in the car or whatever, and they tried to incapacitate her, and that's how they did it.
Missy, did they ever say what was in the syringe?
I don't know if there was anything in the syringe either.
Because they planted it.
My other thought was I was very leaning more toward the car was also planted in. I feel like somebody put that car in that position and it was a ditch site for the car. I don't know if anything actually happened in that location. I feel like that was more of all put there thing. Because there's nothing to even say that she was at that location, just her car was.
Right.
So to me, I just think that was the place they ditched the car. Something could have happened to her when she went into the parking lot. Her coworkers said that they saw her leave, but did they? We don't actually
Did they watch
know
her
that.
get all the way in her car? Yeah.
We don't know that for sure. Something could have happened to her. Maybe one of them took the car, one of them took her. I don't know. But I'm just saying, I feel like the car was staged, and that's where I sit with the car. Because it wasn't super damaged either. That was the one thing. If
Right.
it was a car, and I know that car's a boat, so it's not likely to get as damaged. When you hit something with a vehicle like that, you're not going to damage it as much. But I honestly, the way that it was in there, it didn't seem like it hit the building super duper fast, and it wasn't super duper damaged. I just thought it was more of a ditch site. I also wondered, and this could be completely off too, is that the month before Maura Murray went missing, and maybe somebody, okay, this is a good way to get rid of her car. We'll just make it look like she got into a car accident like Maura Murray did. And they'll just think she got into a car accident and then tried to, whatever.
Like a copycat?
Copycat, ditch the car as a copycat. That was, and yeah, they didn't think she was going to get as much attention because now Maura Murray was getting all the attention. I do want to say one more thing before we wrap all of this up, but Bruce Maitland, Brianna's dad, took his grief and he did something cool with it. He started a foundation after Brianna disappeared. I'm going to give you the quote from the website. "I do this in honor of my daughter, Brianna Maitland. I think that by helping others will bring the good out of the evil in this life. It's a nonprofit organization which provides investigative services to families with missing loved ones, and they take donations to help people with missing loved ones who can't especially afford like private investigators to do any investigating." So I think that's super cool. I know, I love it. I love it so much. You can actually go on the website to donate or to volunteer if anyone is interested in any of that. So it is investigationsforthemissing.org. And also I want to give out the Vermont State Police phone number. It's 85993. So if you have any information about Brianna Maitland's disappearance or what actually happened, please give that phone number a call, or you can always send us a message too, and we will do that for you as well. So just putting that out there. Hopefully, I feel like we're close. it just feels like there's just a little piece of this story that is missing. And I really hope that, especially with the advancements in technology and DNA and all of these things, that we can hopefully have answers sometime soon. We are coming up on the 20-year anniversary, but hopefully we can get this solved. But until then, all we can do is speculate wildly.
We don't want you to miss any of our future recordings. Please take this time now to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find us also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok at SWACPod. That's SWACPOD. Or you can contact us via email for any questions, comments, or case ideas at swacpod@gmail.com. Thank you for speculating wildly with us tonight.